Welcome to the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Grantee Training. In this presentation, we will be discussing line item grants. First, we will define what a line item grant is and the life cycle of the grant, including the pre-award and post-award processes. Next, we will describe how to prepare for a line item grant and steps to remain in compliance with your grant agreement. Finally, we will share resources that may be beneficial throughout your grant program. A line item grant is a non-discretionary award, meaning the grant is made to a specific recipient in accordance with legislation. The grant is not awarded based on the judgment of an application. DCEO does not determine the timing of when funds are released for each line item grant and receives guidance from the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, also known as GOMB. The pre-award process for line item grants involves the grant manager contacting the entities identified in the legislation and providing application materials. Once application materials are completed, the grantee will submit the application to the grant manager for review and approval. Grantees are assessed based on risk, and specific conditions may be imposed accordingly in the grant agreement. Once the assessment and application review is complete, a grant agreement will be developed and executed by DCEO. The grant agreement is a contractual agreement between a grantor, or funding entity, and grantee, or the recipient of grant funding. This agreement outlines in detail the parameters, requirements, and expectations of both the grantee and the grantor. This document contains everything you need to know about your grant. The post-award process for line items involves performance management, risk mitigation, and completion of audit requirements. Grantees must maintain compliance and anticipate and adhere to any grant agreement modifications as needed. Grantees are also responsible for completing and submitting reports to their grant manager at least quarterly as outlined in the executed grant agreement. Although this is a line item grant, the DCEO grant manager will support you to ensure you are meeting the required terms of your grant agreement. While line item grants are awarded on a non-competitive basis, grant recipients must complete the steps to become pre-qualified. Pre-qualification requires an active registration with SAM.gov, or the System for Award Management. Grantees must have a valid UEI, or Unique Entity Identifier, a valid FEIN or Federal Employer Identification Number, also known as FEIN, and a certificate of good standing with the Illinois Secretary of State, depending on the entity type. Pre-qualification also requires that an entity is not on the Federal Excluded Parties List, the Illinois Stop Payment List, and the Illinois Department of Health and Family Services, or DHFS, Sanctions List. Grantees can use the GATA Grantee portal to monitor their pre-qualification status. If a grantee should fall out of compliance, it will be updated in the Grantee portal and a notification of status change email will be sent to the contacts listed in the portal. The GATA portal is also where grantees will complete such requirements as audits, risk assessments, and indirect cost elections. We would like to share a few tips to keep in mind during the life cycle of a line item grant. Please remember that your entity must remain in pre-qualified status to be able to execute or modify a grant agreement with the state of Illinois. Entities must comply with grant requirements during and after the grant period. Periodically monitor and update your grantee portal profile with correct contact information to ensure your team is receiving all updates and alerts. Remember to always refer to your grant agreement for important reporting dates and audit information. If you have questions, please be sure to work directly with your grant manager. Grantees can learn more about line item grants and other grant-related topics by visiting the DCEO Grantee Resources page. You may scan the QR code on your screen or visit dceo.illinois.gov/DCEO-grants. Thank you for watching this presentation on line item grants with DCEO. If you have questions, please contact ceo.granthelp@illinois.gov.